In a surprising move, Google has released a cheaper version of the Pixel 3 and the Pixel 3 XL. Maybe it wasn't that surprising because it was kind of leaked all over the internet, so we kind of knew it was coming, but still, it was a surprising move. I already did in the live video where I tested its camera out against other devices, checked to see how long the battery lasts and all that other fun stuff throughout a day. You can check that out at the link below. In this video, however, let's do a more detailed dive on everything the Pixel 3a is and do a complete walkthrough. First, special thanks to PureVPN for sponsoring this video. PureVPN is one of the most affordable VPN solutions out, starting at just $3.33 a month. Their service installs seamlessly on Windows, Mac, Android, or iOS and allows you to browse the web anonymously, as well as have all your data encrypted. No more worrying about people spying on you or gathering data as you surf. Beyond that though, you can also use it to tell sites and services that you're browsing from a different country of your choosing than the one you are in, which removes whatever country-based restrictions they might have, allowing you to access content that you couldn't otherwise. And if this sounds like something you might be interested in checking out, head to the link in the description below, and if you use that link to purchase, you'll get PureVPN for an even lower price. So first up, let's talk about the hardware. The new Pixel 3a and 3a XL are half the price of the Pixel 3 and 3 XL, and because of this, there were some sacrifices. Less than you'd think, but we'll get to that later. The first of them being that instead of glass, the Pixel 3a is made out of plastic. It is still this soft touch plastic on the lower section of the back and a glossier plastic for the top to further resemble the 3 and the 3 XL style. And honestly, while the Pixel 3 and the 3 XL back feels great, you'd have a hard time telling anyone that the Pixel 3a feels just half as good. We have another even less noticeable difference in the materials. The front glass is not Gorilla Glass like we're used to on most phones nowadays. Instead, it's Dragon Trail Glass, a similar product from a rival company that is much cheaper presumably, but feels just as much like glass as the Monkey variety. Now of course we'll have to see how this other type of glass stands up over time, but for now, you're not gonna notice a difference. The screen is an 18.5 by 5 aspect ratio, 5.6 inch screen with a 2220 by 1080 resolution. Something to note about the screen is the fact that it will not support Daydream, which is Google's VR platform, as according to Google, it has, quote, resolution and frame rate issues that make it incompatible. Above that screen, we don't have two front cameras like on the Pixel 3 and the 3 XL. Instead of the 19mm and 28mm equivalent cameras we had on those, we have one camera, basically in the middle of all that at 24mm. That camera, by the way, is an 8-megapixel f2.0 aperture camera with 1.12 micron sized pixels. Working around the device, we have our USB 2.0 Type-C port at the bottom, along with one of our two dual speakers. The other is in the earpiece. Now that USB-C port has support for USB Power Delivery 2.0 in the form of 18 watts. We also lose support for Qi charging compared to the Pixel 3 and the 3 XL. On the right, we have a volume rocker and our power button. On the left, there is our nano SIM slot. There is no micro SD card slot or dual SIM, by the way. At the top, we have a welcome difference between the 3A and the 3, a 3.5mm headphone jack. On the back, we have our fingerprint sensor that, just like on other Pixels, can be used to pull down the notification shade, which I love. Above that, we have the big thing everyone is talking about with this phone, and that's the fact that it has the same camera as the more expensive Pixel 3 and 3 XL that have been praised even to this day as one of the best cameras on a smartphone. Now, as a refresher, it's a single lens, 12.2 megapixel f1.8 aperture, 28mm equivalent, optically stabilized camera with 1.4 micron sized pixels and dual pixel autofocus. Now it can also shoot at up to 4K at 30 frames per second with some serious electronic image stabilization enabled and can do 1080p up to 60 frames per second. We have modes for panorama, portrait mode, night sight, which is Google's version of night mode for brighter low light shots using a long exposure, time lapse, Google Lens, Photosphere, Photo Booth, and Playground, which is their AR lens. Another thing they sacrifice here is water resistance. There is no IP rating or even any equivalent in water resistance specs. On the inside, we have a Qualcomm Snapdragon 670 chipset paired with 4 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of storage. There are no other choices for storage, RAM, or chipset. The only other option you have is the larger screen and more battery in the XL version. That Qualcomm 670 is a mid-range chipset, and when compared to the Snapdragon 845 on the Pixel 3 in 3D Mark, the difference is noticeable. Now, while this means that there might be a noticeable difference in frame rates when playing games, and honestly the games that I played still ran and I was still able to play them, it doesn't mean that there's actually a big difference in your normal day-to-day activities. Opening apps are a hair slower, scrolling is as well, and image processing too. But the truth is, thanks in part to the very minimalistic version of Android on all Pixel devices, you won't notice it too much. Especially if you don't have both phones sitting next to each other like I do. For battery, we have a 3000 milliamp battery that performs okay. Not amazing, but not bad. It's similar, though, to the Pixel 3, and then I don't expect it to last me a full day with heavy use, but normal use, it'll die probably right before I get home. You can check out, again, my real-world test for the battery and how it lasted throughout a typical day. Moving on to the software, we have what you'd expect from any Pixel device. While it's technically not really stock Android and there's not really such a thing anymore, it's basically the closest thing we have to anything that would resemble stock Android. That means that it has the basic Android build, which is one of my favorite versions of Android, by the way, with a very minimalistic look, the Google launcher for your home screen, and it's super responsive and very clean. Because of that, like all Pixel devices, it'll be upgraded to the latest versions of Android faster than any other device out. Since there is no added software that needs to be added on top of Android like with other manufacturers, it's a lot easier for them to just roll out the updates. And Google even promises 3 years of software support. Finally, the crazy thing about this device is the price. As mentioned, the Pixel 3a is half the cost of the Pixel 3, $399 compared to $799. And at the time of writing this, you can find an extra $100 in credits on so many different places to buy it from that it's basically $299, which is even more nuts. Honestly, I'm having a hard time with this device. I feel like it's all of the good things and the bad things about the Pixel 3 and the 3 XL, but because of the price being so drastically different and lower, I'm more impressed by the good things and I'm less annoyed by the bad ones. If you aren't planning to game a lot, and again, it can handle games, just not as well, I'm having a really hard time being able to recommend to anyone the Pixel 3 and the 3 XL over the 3a or the 3a XL. And it's kind of blowing my mind right now.
There you guys, hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please let me know in the comments below what you thought of the video, what you think of the Pixel 3a. Always love to hear from you guys. If you like this video though, please thumbs up it or share it. It's greatly appreciated. Also, check out the rest of my channel. If you like what you see there, please subscribe and ding the bell next to where subscribe so you get notified when I do new videos. Also, if you check in the description below, you'll find a link to my email newsletter that goes out every week. You'll get all the videos that I normally do, but also you'll get tips and tricks and other things that don't necessarily make it here to video on the channel. As always though, regardless, thanks for watching.